Hello, everyone. We can go ahead and get started. We may have some more people pop on. I do want to thank you all so much for joining us for today's Unstoppable Women conversation. Today's interview will be recorded, so if you have a friend that wasn't able to make it this afternoon, or if you would just like to rewatch it, you can view the recording this Friday on our council Facebook page. We have a great interview lined up for you today, and I'm excited to announce our trailblazers, JoAnne Kennard and Molly Edmondson. JoAnne and Molly are the founders of Mojo Advantage and will be interviewed by Teen Girl Scout Katie Hardesty. This is Katie's first time joining us as our girl interviewer, and we're very excited to have her here today. So I'll go ahead and give you the floor now.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Mojo Advantage.
So Molly and I both came from different backgrounds. Molly has a master's in education, and I worked at IBM for 20 plus years. And we both found ourselves, I had retired and Molly had chosen at a certain point to stay home with her kids. So we both found ourselves looking to do something new as our kids got older and more independent. So we decided to, and we realized that it's kind of challenging to get back into the workforce when you are a mom that stayed home, whether it's been for a year or two, as was my case, or for several years, as was Molly's case, if you wanted to do something different. So we did a bunch of interviews and surveys and realized there was a unique opportunity to put a what I would call a coaching with a purpose company together, where we could help moms who wanted to re-enter the workforce to do so, to give them the tools and the process and the confidence to go get that done. And it's evolved into a company that offers services in the area of helping collegiate students who've graduated to find a job that maybe is different than what they thought they were originally going to do, as well as people who are making decisions to pivot in their career. And we've also been working with some small businesses in terms of employee development and team optimization. So it's been a great journey for us, because when you start a new business, you really don't always know how it's going to go, and you don't know where you're going to end up, but the journey is half the fun.
I like that you're re-entering the workforce to help other people.
That's why we get so much satisfaction out of it, to be honest, because we see our clients kind of grow in their confidence and grow in their opportunities, and it can be really life-changing. And so it's really, really fun for us and gratifying for us to see that. So it's been really great.
Yeah. What are the ways you implement self-care?
You know, I think that for some women, sometimes they think self-care is selfish. And especially if you're a mom, you maybe put it off because you feel like if you're taking care of yourself, you're not taking care of the other people in your life. And that's not the case at all. It's actually the opposite. The more you can take care of yourself and be healthy and be mentally in a good place, and the better you can take care of other people. So I think we're both pretty avid exercisers. We both like to eat pretty healthy. We enjoy our snacks, because there's no point in living a good life if you don't partake in ice cream and sweets every once in a while. But I think we both like to read a lot. We both do a lot of gratitude journaling. Either JoAnne, I know, does a lot of written journaling. Mine's more mental in my head, but having gratitude is a great way to practice self-care, because it keeps you in a really good frame of mind.
Yeah.
Do you do any of that?
I do yoga.
Awesome. Good for you. That's great.
Thank you. Where will we find you on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m.?
Well, speaking of self-care, probably at the gym, working out. For me, going to a gym or playing tennis or playing golf or whatever activity, taking a walk down on the bike trail, that is probably the best way to start the day for me, because I feel like if you can do something early in the morning, whether it's exercise or meditation or prayer or journaling or reading, something for yourself to start the day is a great way, because as the day goes on, I feel like we are getting pulled in a lot of different directions. So I try to start every day with something of that nature.
Sometimes you might find me with a warm cup of coffee before it. 10 at 11, I might get to
I
exercise.
get up earlier than Molly. Cat's out of the bag.
What does leadership mean to you, and what is your leadership style?
I think being a leader means being somebody that has character and does what they say they're going to do and really gets people to follow them, maybe even without trying, because they're doing the right things and they're making good choices and they're helping the people around them kind of live up to their potential. And so I think, being a good leader really means being human and open and vulnerable to the people around you in a way that helps everybody achieve a goal and lifts them up so they can all reach their potential and work at their best.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think some of the best leaders are the best listeners. They are willing to listen to their team. That said, once they listen to their team, they are unafraid to set a strategy for the team, even if everyone doesn't agree, because you're never going to have total agreement, but they're willing to do it, and they continue to try to bring those people on board. My favorite term is lead from behind. So that's a leader that's willing to listen, not afraid to make the decision, but also very focused on, developing the team and bringing the best out of their team.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we are all human and vulnerable, so. What quality do you think makes a great leader? Is there a particular leader you look up to, and why?
I think I was thinking about this question, and so many people popped into my head for leaders, but I think it always doesn't have to be somebody famous. Like obviously Oprah, great leader, LeBron, great leader, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be famous to be a great leader. I bet people in your own life that you can see are leaders that they're not famous. You don't have to tell us their name, but can you think of anybody that you think is a great leader?
Yeah.
And what kind of qualities do you think they have? What makes them a great leader?
Well, she's very forthcoming and straightforward and not afraid to say what she thinks, and strong and will stand up for people.
Mm-hmm. Those are all awesome qualities. Definitely needed.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of a great leader is that the team around the person trusts them. They have confidence in that they will be straightforward with them, that they will be heard and listened to, that they will bring out the best in the team, that even if they don't understand what their approach is or their strategy is or what they're doing, they have enough trust in that person that they will, try to do their best for them.
I think another thing too is leaders, a good leader doesn't think they have all the answers.
Agree.
And doesn't think that they don't have to keep learning. A good leader is always learning because there's always new information. That doesn't mean they're not going to make decisions, but it just means they're broadening their horizons, they're learning more. Mm-hmm. They are surrounding themselves with people who might know more about the subject they're leading on than they do. But that's okay because they're able to filter in lots of different information and come to the best next step. So
yes, it's very good to hear all the points of views before making a decision. How important is it to you to have a mentor to grow as a leader? What are some steps to building that type of relationship?
I had a mentor at IBM, actually had a couple. And what I felt like was great for me, it allowed me to bounce questions that, off of them, and sort of a penalty-free environment to talk to them about career aspiration, career challenges, balancing career and home life. So it was a really positive thing for me. It also, I mean, for some people look at mentors in terms of career advancement. For me, it was a little bit more the sort of that penalty-free environment to talk to somebody, and they would help me brainstorm business opportunities, or, how to address a certain challenge, and give me really, really great ideas that I hadn't even thought of. Because a lot of times a mentor has gone through a set of experiences that you've never had before. And so that is a really positive thing. The other thing is the idea of modeling. The mentor that I had that was most effective, he was a gentleman that had been in a lot of different parts of the business. And he had learned so many different things. And I really modeled my day-to-day work ethic after him. And that was, it was very good to see it. People can tell you should do this, you should do that. But when you see somebody doing it in action and see how effective they are, that was very helpful.
I think for the Girl Scouts that are listening, you can develop mentors now before you even get into your career, because you can learn from people that are older than you,
teachers
that have had different experiences than you've had, because you can, as JoAnne said, you can kind of learn from their experiences, and it might enlighten you to something that you hadn't thought of before, and give you a lot of confidence. Like, hey, that person's been really successful in whatever they're doing, and they're just like me. That means I can do it. And that's really empowering for you.
Yeah. We are in the midst. Oh, how do you motivate yourself and stay motivated?
Well, one of the things it's interesting that we do within our set of services that actually has been a very eye-opening learning curve for both of us is everyone is motivated differently. And so part of our assessment helps people understand what they are motivated by. The part that's great about it is understanding that what motivates me is not going to motivate Molly, is not going to motivate you, and that's okay. And understanding that, for some young people, we have, contrary to popular belief, it's not all about money for them in a career. It's about probably the biggest one we find is the ability to constantly learn and have new challenges. I would say that's probably the most, we usually see that from our young clients. So if you look at that and you understand that that's what motivates you, then that's what you're going to seek out as your experiences, whether it's in a, school setting, whether it's in activities or in a job. And so for Molly and I can say for Mojo Advantage, one thing that motivates both of us, that we love the fact that we help people build the confidence to go after what they want. And that is something that, regardless of who we're working with, is really exciting for us. So we share that motivation as it relates to our Mojo service offerings.
Yes, we are all different, so we all are motivated differently.
Right.
That's true.
And it's okay. And I think the biggest thing is respecting the fact that people do have different motivations, and therefore how they approach decisions or what their priorities are might be different. I think it's the magic happens when we start understanding everybody's different motivations and we accommodate it in a way that's a positive interaction, and we aren't judging people because they're not motivated the same way I'm motivated. Well, that's just the world we live in. And that's what makes it kind of interesting, to be honest with you.
Yes, that's a very important part of it. We are in the midst of the Girl Scout Cookie program. What advice do you have for Girl Scout young entrepreneurs? what advice do you have for women looking to grow either their own business or within the company they work for?
Well, the Girl Scout program, I remember being the cookie mom for many years when my girls, I have 2 daughters, they're 24 and almost 22 now, so this was a long time ago. But I was the cookie mom for a couple of years for each of them. And it was always talk about motivation. Some of the girls were motivated because there was a big goal at the end of it and a big prize. And some of them, it was just the pride of, I want to be the one that sold the most. So, I think that setting a goal is really the most important thing. And then kind of just thinking outside the box and brainstorming and working together as a team to come up with different ideas about how we could go about. And I'm sure COVID has made it different for you guys now. You're dealing with a whole bunch of set of challenges that didn't exist 20 years ago. So have you come up with any creative ways to get up your cookie sales?
Well, we're selling more on Facebook and stuff like that, like making posts and stuff. So
that's I just actually saw, I think Uber is gonna partner with Girl Scouts. I think I saw that online.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so
actually.
people can order their dinner and get some Girl Scout cookies.
That's a great idea. Love that.
Yep.
With regard to the entrepreneurial part of the question, I feel like, and whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working within a company, probably if I were to give advice to my 22 something self, was that where I thought I was going to end up and where I ended up were vastly different, and that's okay. I think understanding that you're going to make what you think, and it's the same way with Mojo, what we thought we were going to sell and how we were going to sell it has changed as we've gained experiences. We have networked with people who, and by the way, people want to help you when you're a small business. We've had pretty much of an endless list of people who have tried to help us in one way or another. And so every time you learn something new, you incorporate it, you might be changing the direction of what you thought your new business was or your career, because you're incorporating the latest lesson that you learned. And that is very normal. It is a journey, not a destination. And I really think if I had been able to give myself advice and just embrace the journey part of it and be okay with setbacks or be okay with the fact that it might go differently than you anticipated. And that's okay. Just take the learning from it and enjoy the ride a little bit rather than stressing about the fact that you're maybe not hitting the expectations that you had set for yourself. You might be hitting better expectations. You just didn't know they were out there.
I think a lot of times people make a plan and they hold so tight to that plan that they miss opportunities that come along their path and their journey if it doesn't fit exactly into their plan. And so while it's good to think ahead and make a plan, it's kind of like when I taught high school. I made a lesson plan every day, but it was kind of a sketch. We never followed the same plan. I had to be able to bob and weave and veer and deal with whatever came up in the classroom, because if I was going to be hard and fast to my lesson plan, we really would not have gotten very far, and my kids would have been unhappy and they would not have liked me as a teacher. So it's kind of that same way with life. You've got to make a plan and make a decision. I'm looking at this kind of college major. I'm looking at this kind of career, but you have no idea. You might get to college and take a class that sets you on a far different path than what your expectations were. And as another little aside, it's okay to change your mind too. You might go to college and say, I'm going to be pre-med because I'm going to be a doctor. Since I was 5 years old, I said I'm going to be a doctor. And when you get older and learn about more opportunities and what else is out there in the world, you might decide you don't want to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I think people get so wrapped up in that's my identity. I have said for so long I'm going to be a doctor that I have to follow through with it because people are going to think I'm a flake if I don't. And that's not living authentically, and you're not going to be happy. So kind of listen to your gut and be open to different opportunities that present themselves along the journey.
Yes, I feel it's very important to be flexible, and if you find something you like more, you just learned new information about the world and you decided you wanted to do that more. So
Yep. Agree 100%.
How do you balance your career, personal life, and passions? What advice do you have for mothers moving forward in their career?
I would say, we have a lot of different flavors of moms that we work with who are trying to figure out what that balance is for career. And, probably 3 or 4 things that we really talk to them about. One is it's very individual. Everybody's home demands are very individual, and also the career. So when I worked at IBM, I was very lucky. Molly and I were just talking about this. I was really lucky. They let me do a part-time situation, but not every company at that time was allowing that. So I had several friends that there was no way they could be in the office 5 days a week. And therefore, so they had to step away from working because the demands of family. So you really have to assess what is your situation. You just have to assess it, and then you make your personal decisions around it. But everybody's situation is very unique. One of the reasons I think I was always able to stay working was because I was lucky enough to have a support system around me, family, friends, as well as daycare situation that worked for us. That's an important component. I mean, it really is. It is, if you're a working mom and you have a daycare situation that is undependable, if you can't depend on it, or it adds stress to your day, or you worry about your children. I mean, some people don't have a choice to work. And so but you really have to find another daycare situation, because the one thing that working moms share, and actually moms in general, we all worry about our kids. I mean, honestly, the minute you have children, they shoot you up with this worry gene, and you just worry all the time. So, and it doesn't matter whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're working, we all worry. So you have to get yourself in a situation that you feel comfortable and trust. You trust your daycare situation. And the final piece is, don't worry about being perfect. It's a waste of time. Nobody's perfect. Don't pretend you're perfect. Just try to do the best. Let your kids know, let everyone know you're doing your best. And really, at the end of the day, it's just, focusing on loving your kids, not, being the perfect mom, the achievements, all that kind of stuff. That's all really a waste of time. So that was, coming off of 20 plus years, those were my learnings. And I think the more I relaxed into the situation, the better it was for my girls and my son.
And obviously, since I stepped away from teaching when we moved to Cincinnati, my oldest was 6 months old, and we didn't know anybody here. So I had the opportunity to stay home, and I did, with the intention of going back to teaching, which I never did, but I always had a little part-time something. But the point of me telling you that is, JoAnne's journey is no better, no different. It's different, but no better, no worse than my
Right.
journey. There's no judgment. Sometimes I think women put judgment on themselves. They feel like they're getting judgment from other people when really it's a self-imposed judgment. So you just have to make the best personal decision for you and your family, and not really care what other people think, because it's really what's best for you and your family.
Yeah.
And I think your generation has a little bit of a, thankfully, when I had young children, there wasn't much social media. Oh my Lord, thank goodness, because
You couldn't compare yourself as easily.
I could not see anyone's
No.
stuff that they brought to the bake sale. So my store-bought cookies were fine. But I mean, honestly, so I think that that's, somewhat of a challenge going forward for all of you guys going forward, is measuring yourself against the things that are important for you, and not what other people tell you should measure yourself against.
And actually, building on to that, you said perfection earlier, about trying not to be a perfect mom and the perfect working woman, and you can't be perfect.
It's exhausting.
And even before you're a mom, if a student, a young professional, there is no such thing as perfection. And we do all compare. I think women compare themselves to others way more than men do. And you can never be perfect. So just drop that. You're going to make mistakes. You are going to wish you had done something differently. And you just learn from it and go, okay, next time I know. That was a learning experience. What did that teach me? It's easier said than done, but if you can do that, that is a huge, that will lift so many burdens and so much stress off your shoulders as young women and young working women.
Yeah, we have a phrase we use a lot with our clients: don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Sometimes JoAnne has to use it with me.
Only because I used it with myself.
Yeah. At the end of the day, none of us are perfect, so.
That's true. You do your best, but it can never be perfect.
Yeah. What do you believe will be the biggest challenge for the next generation of female leaders behind you, and what advice would you give them?
Go ahead.
I think that an age-old challenge for women will be the balancing of all of the balls that women tend to have in the air: family, parents, your own kids, your own job. And I think being really authentic in a leadership role. I just was listening recently to a podcast it was a Michelle Obama podcast, and she was interviewing a coworker from the White House, a coworker, if you want to call the first lady has a coworker. And she said, I loved every time your daughter called, you stopped whatever meeting you were in and you took the call, because that was her priority. And she was the leader, and she set the tone that was the priority. So I think the more authentic you can be with, hey, this is real life. I'm not pretending I'm something I'm not. I want to get the job done and get a job done well. But we have to be honest with who we are and what we're bringing to the table.
I think I would agree that being a future leader, it's a juggling act, and agree with the fact that you've got to, don't apologize for having kids at home and all and such. I think that the challenge is the balance between the pressure as a woman leader to act a certain way or advocate for certain things. And I think that you've got to be very true to yourself in terms of what issues you're passionate about. Don't be pressured. There's a lot. I think because there has been a void of true woman leadership in corporations, that there's when those women leaders arrive, there's a million people pulling on them. And I really think you've got to just, be true to yourself as to what's truly important to you, not just your kids, but even the issues you want to advocate for, or how you want to conduct yourself, or, the activities you want to spend your day with. I think that's going to be a real challenge, because there is a void. And some of it is people, women have decided they don't want to work the hours required to become a senior executive of a multi-billion-dollar company, because they want to be home. That's okay too, right? Because there's this reality check within that. So just being honest with yourself about what you want, and what if you do arrive in that position, staying true to why you were put in that position I think it's a bit tricky, because once you get there, you got a lot of people pulling on you.
It's a good point.
Yes, it's very important to be authentic to yourself as well as everyone else.
Right.
How do you admire someone else's success without doubting your own self-worth?
One of the things we talk about this, and I've talked about this in different studies I've been in with folks. I think the ability to celebrate somebody else's success comes from two things. One is if you're grateful for what you have and what your opportunities are, being happy for others and not being sort of, not jealous, but I don't know what the word is, but envious or not necessarily celebrating it. It's much easier to be that way if you are very grateful for your circumstances. And, the saying is, the trick is not looking what you don't have, it's being happy for what you have. And if you can get to that place, I think that it really takes a lot of pressure off you trying to be like someone else, because you're just happy with what you have. You're looking forward to what you want to go pursue, and you're not comparing yourself. Someone's always going to be bigger, better at something. It's a no win sum game for you to constantly compare yourself on every different level to all kinds of people. I mean, it's just a recipe for unhappiness, in my opinion. So we tell we've had some clients that we've said, I think you ought to get going on a great gratitude journal, or figure out how to think about your day and what was good in that day, because I do think if you can go with that path, it not only that, it makes you happier, but it unleashes so many more possibilities because you're not constantly focused on negative.
I think the other thing too is to have a mentality that there's enough for everybody. There's enough success for everybody to go around. So if you're jealous of someone else's success because you feel like they've taken something from you, that's just a bad mindset to be in. If you can celebrate someone else's success with gratitude and abundance, then you're actually going to see abundance around you. And so the other thing I would say is in the comparison game, never look at somebody who's been in the game for 10 or 15 years and you're just starting out, and you're not going to be as good as or as accomplished or whatever as they are. And then you give up and say, oh, see, look at how much better they are than I am. I'll never get there. You can't compare yourself to someone else's future self. That just doesn't work, because you don't have the same level of experience and skills.
Right. And that's where the modeling can come in. If you look at someone out there that's, 15 years ahead of you, look at what they're doing, find out what they're doing when nobody's looking. It's usually where you find people who are having success, and success is defined by how you define success, but you'll find out that they're doing a lot of things when nobody's watching that are very helpful in their journey.
Yes. It looks like that's all the questions we have for today. So.
Well, thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing your story and your advice with us. We do have a couple questions from the audience. Looks like Angie Tinch has raised her hand, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute her and let her ask that. And while we wait for her, we did have someone type in the chat box. When working with women re-entering the workforce, how do you recommend that they highlight any volunteer experiences when updating their resumes? And do you find that employers value volunteer efforts when considering women returning to the workforce?
Yes, capital Y-E-S.
We focus and it's really even the same way when you pivot from a job, when you are doing volunteer work, let's say you're running an auction and you are getting people who are sponsors, and you're organizing food, and you're, getting the programming, gift baskets and auction items. I mean, in a skilled terms, that is project management. So what we do is we work with people to say, what did you do? We had one gal that came in. I mean, her finance skills, because she had run the books for a nonprofit, were unbelievable. So those are skills that are very transferable. And so what we do is, that's why we spend a lot of time talking through, what have you been doing over the last 10 years? And it usually takes us a couple times, because the moms discount what they've been doing. And we really have to talk them into the fact that, yes, that actually is a skill. And by the way, a lot of them are doing it at home.
Yeah.
A lot of the moms are running the finances at home, or they're running the budget, whatever that looks like, the logistics. So there's a lot of things that transfer over into business skills that we help uncover, because we really want that, prospective employer to look and say, oh gosh, she knows how to use Excel. She knows how to use Microsoft Word because she's been doing this in a volunteer position. And that's a skill that you bring to the table. And so we really focus on pulling those out, having the discussions around it, which helps interviewing and figuring out what you want to do. And then also it helps the resume process, because resumes are notorious for being backwards looking. And what we're trying to do with our clients is have them forward looking, putting the skills that target the type of work that they want to potentially do.
That's great. I'm sure we all have skills we don't even know we have. So that's great.
Well, one thing that we
sure.
find out too is a lot of people discount their skills because it comes really easily to them. So they assume, well, doesn't everybody know how to do the books? Doesn't everybody know finance? Like that's so easy. And what's easy for you, that's actually, Katie, that's a clue for you. What comes easily for you that you think everybody else can do, that might be your superpower. So you want to hone in on that, because everybody has a different skill set.
And what do you like doing? I mean, what do you like to spend your day doing? That's an important question. If you're going to target getting back into the workforce, let's go find something you enjoy. I don't know, call me crazy, but
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you all so much. And that looks like our last question. So JoAnne, Molly, and Katie, I just want to give you guys a big thank you, and thank you to everyone who's joined us today. Our next Unstoppable Women segment will be Tuesday, February 16th at 4:30 with Lisa Daughtery and Marcy Stevens. Will be joining us as our girl interview. We look forward to seeing you all then, and have a great evening.
Thank you.